Okay, I am going to click it. And so, Andrew, again, I'll have you kind of count down to 10. Making sure the link shows live on my computer.
Okay, I think we're ready then. Good morning, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Arts Ileana Regional Initiative Grant for fiscal year 22 Arts Project Support. I'm Andrew Connor, Community Organizer from Terre, Haute. Today is April 19th, 2021, and we are meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. There's no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applicants before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting will be recorded and made available upon request. At this time, I will individually invite each of the panelists and staff to introduce themselves, starting with their name, occupation, and where they are from in the state. Let's begin with the panel. First, Dan, will you go first?
Hi, I'm Dan Triad. I'm the Director of Student Performing Arts at Rose-Hulman here in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Thank you, Dan. And Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee Dodd, itinerant teacher for the blind, Terre Haute, Indiana, the Wool Center.
Very good. Elissa.
My name is Elissa Wise. I'm the Director of Donor Relations at Wagon Wheel Center for the Arts in Warsaw, Indiana.
Very good. Welcome. Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Minster, and I teach English and Religious Studies at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology and live here in Terre Haute.
Very good. Maverick.
Hello, my name is Maverick Schmidt. I'm the Programming Director for Monument Theater Company in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Thank you. And Pat.
Patricia McIntyre, retired educator, Terre Haute, Indiana.
Very good. And we also have some IAC staff with us today. Deanna.
Deanna Polsma with the Indiana Arts Commission. I am the Grants Research and IT Manager.
And of course, from Arts Ileana, our staff member, Sherry.
Good morning. I'm Sherry Wright, and I'm Associate Director at Arts Ileana and the Program Manager for the Regional Initiative Grant in Region 6. And I want to apologize that on the screen, there's a mistake, and Gail Wise should not be there. That's wrong. And Dan Tryon should be there. So apologize for that error. I'm not sure about that mix up. So apologize for that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for pointing that out. Now we'll begin the panel review. This is how the process will work. I will announce the application and we will review and ask the first reader to begin the discussion. The first reader will provide their assessment of the application based upon the evaluation criteria and their perspective. Panelists, please note that the applications do not need to be recapped since everyone has read it. Just provide your comments. After the first reader is finished, I will ask the second reader to present any new, additional, or opposing comments. We're not looking for consensus, just a full evaluation from the different perspectives that panelists bring to the table. After the second reader has finished, I will open the discussion for final comments. Remember, in the interest of time, we're only looking for new, additional, or opposing viewpoints. If a panelist has a conflict of interest, that panelist will be placed on hold while the application is reviewed. However, there are no conflicts of interest on this panel today. Finally, once the application has been reviewed by the full panel, we ask the panel to update their scores in the online system. It is common for scores to change as a result of this broader discussion, and these scores will be saved automatically. Are there any questions? All right, then let us begin. We'll begin with the application from the DePauw University School of Music. The first reader is Mark Minster.
Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to review this application. Just remembering I know you don't want a summary of this, but this is for the Jazz Festival that will take place in November. And so when we think through the criteria, artistic benefit for people from Indiana, this, to my mind, seems to meet that well. It's not only artists, but students who are being trained by those artists, as well as the community, all who stand to benefit from this event. I particularly liked seeing how flexible their planning is because of COVID. The contingency plans that are in place for this shows some foresight, which also in turn increases access. We were also asked to consider the scheduling and the budget, and those seem really detailed and thorough. So all of that, in my plus column, I have pluses for each of those. The suggestion that I would make perhaps for the future is it all comes down to these idea criteria, the criteria in the application. And just, I'm pulling that up just so that I say it correctly. These have to do with benefiting underserved communities from the proposed project, particularly due to isolated geographic location, low income, age, race and ethnicity, cultural differences, disability, and other circumstances. And when I see the marketing plan it's advertised on Facebook, there are email blasts through the website, it seems to me that these are valuable as a start to trying to proactively solicit both students who will participate in the program, who will learn from the Indiana artists, as well as from people who will attend. But I think in the future, it might be nice to see more attempts to cast the net a little wider, to go after a broader audience, as well as in the application materials, to talk a little more reflectively about intentional ways of broadening access. So that's the suggestion that I would make for improving the application.
Thank you, Mark. Our second reader is Maverick.
Hi, everyone. I might have glitched a little bit, so just let me know. Mark covered it pretty well. I don't have any additional comments.
All right. Very good. That is perfectly acceptable as a second reader, and we thank you for that. I would now invite the panelists to finalize your scores and update any online comments that you have. If you need a little more time, that's fine. But when you're done, if you'll give me a thumbs up.
Andrew,
Yes,
I'm just going to pop in and make sure that any of the other panelists have comments beyond the first and second readers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do need to open this up for additional comments from our other panelists.
Yeah, I just have one quick one. Really wanted to emphasize how great your surveys seem to be, the impact of that, and using that experience for how you are planning this year's event, especially in light of COVID, as Mark mentioned. Really great job on that, but especially using that past experience. But one suggestion I would make is maybe having somebody more involved individually or collectively, whether it's a community leader on the planning team or a retired teacher that's been involved in this program before, to get some of that more hands-on experience points from them of like, oh, this is some ideas that you could implement for the future. I just think that would really, really emphasize the of, by, and for your community, that this isn't just your program, it's owned by your community and those you serve. But otherwise, really great job on the surveys. Sounds like you get a lot of information from them, so wonderful.
Thank you, Elisa. Are there other comments? All right, then please finalize your scores and comments in the online. And when you are done, just give me a thumbs up, please. Okay, that's everyone. Thank you all very much. Now to our second application. This is from the Greencastle Arts Council, and our first reader is Dee.
Good morning, everyone. I actually liked this a lot. I found that the artistic quality was pretty high. It looks like they're going to be doing a arts competition in Greencastle. I found that it benefited several of the local artists. Community engagement seemed to be pretty good. The only thing that I saw might need to be addressed is going to be a little bit of the diverse and maybe accessible population. I didn't see a lot of effort being put forth for that. So my main recommendation would be to maybe encourage more of the local artists that come from a diverse population or that come from the disability community, and make sure that those barriers are addressed so that they can be a part of this. Let me see, make sure there wasn't anything that I missed in some of my comments. Like I said, that was the one thing I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed, that those diverse populations and that all accessibility accommodations are made. So other than that, I thought that it was a pretty good project.
All right, thank you very much. Our second reader is Patricia.
Well, in this case, I think that I agree with the first reader that it's a good quality project. The suggestion about underserved populations, I would suggest that rural populations of any diversities of race or gender are underserved in terms of art shows. So I think that that's something we should include in talking about idea stuff, that simply people who do not have access to art will benefit from this, no matter what their background. My only other recommendation was that they might be a bit more clear about their marketing and the specifics of who does publicity and how the graphics are going to be done and by whom, and particularly on what timeline. And that's simply technical issues. Other than that, I am in agreement with the first reader.
All right, thank you very much. And then we open it to the rest of the panel for other comments.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I agree with Dee on the need for more focus on that diversity pool. A suggestion that I would have is similar to Pat's of think outside the box. You didn't give a lot of clarity on your demographics, so look for that pocket of demographic in your community. As being someone not from your area, I can say if you had showcased more demographic studies or criteria on that or data, that might have helped me understand a little bit better where your thought process was. But also a big suggestion I would have or question I have is, what if you don't receive Indiana Arts funding for this? Your project's already in motion and you haven't heard back yet. We're just now reviewing this. So especially if you've already been receiving submissions and you've advertised that this is something that they're going to receive monetary value for, and you're going to be paying these artists, where's that funding coming from if you don't receive this grant? That was a big red flag I saw and a concern that I look at with your timeline for the future. But otherwise, a really great, agree the artistic quality of the examples you showed. This is a really, really great project for your community.
Yeah, I had a couple comments too. One, I completely agree about the value of this for the community. Clearly, the intention is really, really wonderful. I would have liked to hear just a little bit more about the COVID planning. There's a mention about adjusting the dates, but that I would have liked a little more detail about that, just to be able to see like what the plan is, especially because it sounded like the 2020 exhibit went forward, but it wasn't. It would have been nice to see that reflected in there, especially as we move forward, like next year, if you're submitting again. When it comes to broadening access, I kept thinking about the $15 fee that you're charging. for this. And, you know, I submit poetry places, and frequently you want to submit to a journal and it's $10 here and $10 there. And each of those is not a lot, but if you're submitting to a number of places, that adds up. And so one way to increase access is to, especially because these grants, it allows for you to request more. And I think what I would love to see in the future would be ask for more and then waive those fees for the artists, and even award and increase the number of awards. There's something about the competitive nature of arts contests that's nice, but if part of the goal, and part of the goal clearly is with these idea criteria, to increase access, award artists more money. I'd love to see that, and also again, more proactive ways in which maybe you'd consult rural schools, rural churches, places where you would actively try to get artists from beyond the pale, as it were.
All right. Any other comments? Then I will ask you to finalize your scores and update your online comments. When you're done, just give me the thumbs up. Okay, very good. That's everyone. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our third applicant. This is the Indiana State University Community School of the Arts, and Elissa is our first reader.
Yeah, thanks so much. I would just say I really appreciated the collaboration with the 21st Century Scholars on this. Very well done. And the other pockets, the collaboration piece is very strong for this. That did lead me to question, though, I struggled to connect the dots between those collaborations and serving the low income population with how they were financially supported by being a part of this. Especially when I saw that student fee being so high, I really questioned, okay, so how does that work? How does a student become involved in this for free? What percentage of students receive a scholarship? So that was a big pocket that I was missing. How you even advertise your scholarship, it was a little tricky to find that. I went on the website and looked and researched that. So giving more detail on how you present that scholarship out to your community to make sure you're serving those individuals would have been nice to see that. And when you crack that egg, let me know, because we'll use whatever we can to get our scholarships promoted as well for our programming. So definitely creative ideas on how you advertise that. Also, really great artistic quality. It sounds like these students are going to get some great experiences from some Indiana artists, but more information on the bios of those individuals would have been nice. Some more details so we knew who those individuals were that were teaching the students. But that's it on my end.
Thank you, Elissa. And our second reader is Dan Tryon.
I just had a couple of comments to add. As far as the artistic quality, I would really love to have seen within either the social media or somewhere some links to some videos showing us a little bit of some video highlights of not only the culminating experience for these students, but potentially, since this is not the first year, what is that growth? What are these students coming in? And then how does that end up wrapping up? I think it's very easy to add something along those lines, but to really see that growth and benefit, and I think the joy of these students going through this process. The other part that I guess, as far as the idea area there, what I really would like to really see is they mentioned within the budget that they were going to have some diversity speakers that was part of this process. There really was no information at all within there about who these speakers are, why they're coming in, what they would talk about. So I think that really could have helped bolster that area as well, to say who these folks are coming in and what they're going to be sharing with these students. So again, maybe adding a little bit more to that from the diversity speaker part. Other than that, I really enjoy reading through this. The materials that were there, I thought were neat, and again, focused on the students that were there. It looked like they're having a good experience, but again, I would really love to have seen a video at the end of, of those rock bands performing and the students having a good time.
Thank you, Dan. Other comments from the rest of the panel?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I actually did enjoy that they were adding a social awareness class. I think that's something that really needs to be included. I might want to recommend that maybe in the future they mention some type of accommodations that are being made for participants and spectators with disabilities just in future grants. That would be one recommendation that I would make.
Thank you, Dee. Anyone else? Then please finalize your scores and update any comments in the online system. And give me the thumbs up when you're done. All right, I think that's everyone. Our next applicant is the Linda Luebke Strings Festival, and Pat McIntyre is our first reader.
Thank you. In general, this satisfies all the requirements that we have talked about concerning the need to be to receive a grant. The strength of it is that it's a group exercise for string players, and there's a real dearth of string players out there. Kids start playing violin, and then when they get to junior high school, realize you can't play strings in the marching band and quit. So this is one of the few developmental methods for string players that are out there right now. So that, I think that's one of its really superb strengths. It targets a group that needs to be targeted and expanded. And it exposes them to professional players, either by video or one hopes in person. The only weaknesses I found is that the applicant was not absolutely specific about what their options would be in case there are COVID changes between now. It does stipulate a number of methods possible. It didn't give me assurance that they knew exactly at which point they'd have to shift methods and how that shift of methods would operate. Who is told? How are they told? How is the information disseminated? And that's important because it impacts their budget and it impacts their staffing. But other than that, I found this to be an entirely welcome application.
Very good. Thank you, Patricia. Our second reader for this application is Dee Dodd.
I agree with pretty much most of what Patricia said. I actually found it to be very accessible, especially the fact that it was offered virtually last year. They're going to do that as well this year. I think part of that's what they said, if it due to COVID. That way every child can participate. They even mentioned that way if somebody had a physical or emotional barrier, they'd be able to participate due to being offered virtually. The only thing I wanted to make sure is that if a child is able to participate in person, that all accommodations are to be made. That I don't want anybody to be left out, because this sounds like it could be very valuable, especially for somebody who might have a barrier and it needs to be addressed so that they could go ahead and participate in the program. That's all that I had.
Thank you, Dee. Other
comments? If I may support Dee, actually, that's a very good point, because music is one of the primary ways you break down those emotional barriers. So it would be even more critical to make sure that every access is possible to the child, no matter what their approach condition is.
Very good. And other comments from the rest of the panel?
Yeah,
Alyssa.
I was actually very surprised how little the staff was being paid in the breakdown. So I don't know if that's, supplemental work in addition to other projects that they're doing, or if this is, a service I believe there's some students that were like college age students that are involved. So I don't know if they're receiving credit in addition. But that did surprise me. Also, I was just curious what the other income sources are, how this project has been funded in the past. I believe this might be the first time you've requested Indiana Arts Commission funding. I cannot recall off the top of my head. Oh, Sherry's saying no. So yeah, that was just my curiosity of just, okay, where's additional funding coming from for this more specifically, as well as is there the opportunity for growth for especially those professionals that are helping these students.
Thank you. Mark.
I just would, this is super minor, but I would have liked to have seen some recording or something from the 2020 virtual festival. I think that would have been a nice thing to include next year.
Thank you. Maverick, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so one thing that I appreciated is the financial accessibility. That's something that's really important to me. However, just to build upon that, one comment I would make is that I'm interested to know in what ways the organization is intending to be proactive in making the underserved communities or members of underserved demographics within the Terre Haute area and other neighboring communities aware of this program, convincing them to participate. A lot of people who are underserved or who are unfortunately impoverished don't have a pre-existing appreciation for theater, or excuse me, that's my own pitch, for music and for the arts. And, they might even have a negative preconceived notion about what that is, the necessity of it, the beauty of it, and the virtues of participating. So one thing that I would just, going forward would just be to think about what are those initiatives that are going to be taken to reach those people, and not only to make them aware of it, but to entice them and ingratiate yourselves to them, so that way they might be more likely to actually participate and then reap those benefits that you guys are offering.
If I may, I think there was at one point in the application, it does say that they would be making school visits, and the Indiana Jazz Band one too. I think a lot of the contact, especially for underserved communities, comes through talking to their teachers in the various schools in the district.
All right. Lots of input on this one. Thank you all. Anyone else? Then I will ask you to finalize your scores and update any online comments. And once you have done that, give me the thumbs up to indicate that you're done. Let me just check in again. Maverick, are you still working? Are you done? Okay, thank you. I was looking around at everyone and may have missed you. All right. Thank you all very much. Our next project application is the Purple Eagle Plaza Community Project. And Dan Tryon is our first reader.
Thank you. Again, just overall looking at this on the positive, the artist for this is Bill Wolf. I thought the sample works that were included were really helpful in gauging the quality of what was going to be there. Again, very talented artist. I think with this proposal, there were a couple of things that I kept coming back to. For me, I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of information about how they are reaching the community outside of actual graduates of Garfield School itself. It's really hard to state that this project was developed with the community instead of for the community. I didn't feel like there's really a clear process for measuring the impact of this project either. In fact, one of the social media pages listed is closed group for Garfield graduates, so you couldn't even access that. Again, I think a dedicated Purple Eagle Plaza page, it's open for all, would be a little bit more effective. Again, the marketing materials show a nice space, but again, it's kind of aimed primarily at those graduates of Garfield. Not to harp on it, but again, the social media pages are either closed to the public or really addressed for those graduates that are there, not the general public. I do feel like when the plaza is completed, it surely will be an asset for that 12 points area, which has been labeled as low income and isolated geographic area. The artwork can be enjoyed by passersby, and benches are available for a brief respite. While there are I didn't feel like there were any intentional idea strategies that were listed there. You could sort of extrapolate from the materials at the plaza's level and easily wheelchair accessible. But again, nothing really specifically listed for that. As far as the project itself, there really was only one person who had information listed there. There really was no statement referring to what their experience was to help them facilitate this project. The other staff members that were listed really had no duties or experience listed at all. I think also that the timeline for this is a little bit concerning. And again, it says that the statue has actually already been sculpted, and there's really no detail within the timeline about the limestone base that's listed as part of the budget. There are no community engagement activities planned to showcase the artwork. There's no specific date of when the statue will be in place, as the grant states that sculpture will be in storage until the plaza is finished at an undetermined date. Again, those are kind of really the things that really stuck out a lot to me about this application. And that's about what I have to share.
Thank you, Dan. And Alyssa is our second reader.
Yeah, I concur with everything Dan said. I won't reiterate any of that. Other than I'll add two other things that I noted of just the stats on it being an underserved population would have been more helpful. I didn't see that as clearly stated as Dan did. So again, I'll say not being from that community, that would have been so helpful to see that just very clear instead of the more broad, like, this is, an underserved population, just being more specific, and that is always helpful. You can find all that data easily online as well. And then also the experience of volunteers, just those bios would have been nice. And then the maintenance and care of this project, not just the sculpture itself, but the whole plaza area. Who will be overseeing that after? I serve on the Warsaw Arts Commission, and that's a huge thing we always have to focus on. And our street department takes care of it, but much bigger city. So who would be able to maintain that would have been a really good thing to include, as you don't want this project to go to waste. You want it to be there forever. So that future thinking would have been helpful.
Just to go back to that again, I agree. I think they stated that it was, I think I was just they said it was. There's really nothing there for me to accept or refute that based on the material that was here. And so they made a statement of saying that, and I assume that it's went from that.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I would just add that I absolutely agree with all of those comments, that there were a number of statements in the application for which the statements were the only evidence, right? That the community will benefit from this. There is low income housing nearby, it will benefit. And then in addition, the one piece I think that hasn't been added is maybe I missed it, was about the assessment plan. I thought the assessment plan was needed to be more detailed and more intentional. It sounded like there will be observations that will be made of people, but who's doing those when, what kinds of solicitation of from the community of how their needs are being met. I didn't see enough of that.
Thank you. And Dee, did you have a comment?
I did. Being from this area, just like everybody else, pretty much on the panel, we know that they're trying to revamp Full Points. I understand that, but I really feel that it's important to get the community actually involved in it, because if not, like Lisa said, some type of vandalism or something is going to happen. So they need to have the community involvement happen. That way the statue is treated with respect. The other thing is, from an accessibility standpoint, great, you can reach it with a wheelchair, but if somebody was visually impaired, what would be a way that some type of audio feedback could be addressed so that somebody who is blind could tell exactly what they're looking for? So that would be some other recommendations that, because I mean, I see quite a bit of money is being put into this project, maybe a little more just to make it a little more accessible would give it, you know, some type of benefit to the community.
Thank you, Dee. I would just remind everyone that we're really relying just on the information in the application. Even though we may live in the community with one of these projects or have been involved with it in some way or aware of it, we're trying to base our decisions just on what's in the application itself. And so that's a reminder to applicants as well, to prepare your materials as if the reviewers have no familiarity with it at all, and we're just basing it on what's in the application. Are there any other comments? All right, thank you all very much. I would ask you now to finalize your scores and update any online comments. And when you're done with that, thank you, Maverick. Give me the thumbs up. Okay, that's everyone. Thank you all very much. And now we are to our sixth and final project. This is the Terre Haute Children's Choir, and Maverick is our first reader.
All right, thank you. So yeah, I'll just try to be pretty succinct, stick to my comments. Let's see. Yeah, so one of the things that I saw really quickly is that, you know, this is an effort made for the benefit of youth in need, which is great. However, there's, as far as like a potential audience, I was just wanting to see some more specification there in terms of like what was going to be delivered. You know, because the audience isn't just going to be the participants, it's going to be the community, right? So I would love to see, you know, what are there going to be some potential community showcases, pop-up performances, other opportunities for the youth choir to be seen by audiences, especially those comprised of their parents, and maybe even visiting other neglected neighborhoods and areas that might benefit from not only seeing it in action. It's a great way to introduce this organization and this program. So that was just one quick thing that I thought that I would just really like to see detailed going forward. Outside of that, you know, we have a commitment to underserved communities, which is beautiful and a valiant effort. But, you know, with each program, I do like to see, you know, what that means to this program or what this means to that organization. So, you know, just specifying just who it is you intend to target. Is it going to be in Terre Haute? We happen to know that the 12 Points community has been neglected for some time. Is that going to be a focal point? Are you looking towards specific demographics? And then again, when you specify those demographics, how you intend to reach them, and going, you know, I would say just generally speaking in detail about what that process is. You know, if you are going to visit a school, what are you going to offer when you go to visit? Are you going to have visiting artists? The like. Outside of that, I thought this was a really strong proposal. I thought that it's going to be really great for the community, and I was really impressed by the rest of the organization.
Thank you, Maverick. Our second reader is Mark Minster.
Yeah, just to build on what Maverick was saying about some areas where it might have been nice to have some more detail. Some red flags were raised for me, particularly with the budget, and maybe they're just questions that I have. But there were other things too. The proposal listed 3 artists that would benefit, but there were 2 people who were named, and so I was confused about that. The overall plan to broaden the reach to rural areas in the Wabash Valley outside of Terre Haute, as well as to underserved populations within Terre Haute, seems laudatory. Great plan, but even the mechanics of quite how that was working wasn't quite clear to me, and maybe that's because the budget was so partial. So the idea, and here I'm looking for the panel to help out. The idea is to provide $100 scholarships to families of children, but I couldn't tell, and again, maybe I'm being dumb, but I couldn't tell or just missed something, whether the $100 was going towards a waiver, in which case that money is then going to the organization, or whether that money is actually going to the families. And either way, I would need that information in order to assess it, right? If it's going to the organization, then the budget needs a lot more detail for what that money is actually going towards. And if it's going to the families, then that raises a whole bunch of questions like, well, so how long do I need to participate if you're going to give me $100 and I'll say, sure, I'm going to bring my kid. And then what are the details for how much I need to do this? Like I have run, I've run an after school program for kids before, and attrition is a big deal for some of these programs. I mean, I have kids of my own, and schlepping them places, it gets hard to do. And so what I don't know, I didn't see a plan for that, like plans for attrition. I wasn't super confident. I didn't see information that, like, what happens if you don't find 30 kids to give these scholarships to. Also, when I think if I'm coming from Farmersburg, the travel seems prohibitive, even if you're waiving the cost, if that's what the money is used for. That seems to me the most likely. If that money is being waived, it's still going to cost me something. And then I don't know how I'm going to get, from those rural communities to Terre Haute to enjoy the performances in addition to that. So it feels to me like more intentionality about who we're reaching, how exactly that money is getting to the people that it's supposed to get to. And even when it comes to planning the timeline, had phrases like, we will have conversations with these agencies, and the agencies weren't usually named. The Rives Hall was named, but conversations with was a little vague for me. I would have liked more information.
Thank you, Mark. Other comments from the panel?
Yeah, I will definitely concur with a lot of what Mark and Maverick said. I had the same questions regarding the budget. I was just a little confused by it as far as how that I imagined it was a scholarship for them to participate, but it was a little unclear. It would have been nice to have proof of past experience. This isn't the first year of this program. So to be able to say, oh, we had this many students on scholarship last year, we anticipate this many for this year, that would have really helped solidify, I think, the budget a little bit better for me of why you were requesting that much. Again, I know it's not needs-based so much, but to have that experience points going in your favor. And I had the same questions in regard to the artists involved. And your collaboration with the Community School of the Arts. I believe you're a component of it, but wasn't sure. So that was very unclear to me, especially when I saw the website links that were supposed to go to this program, and I found no information on that website about your program. That was very upsetting. I was like, oh, I want to learn more. I want to read more about this program and how you could become involved in it. So having a landing page for you, other than just your Facebook page, where you can learn about the program, its mission, the artists involved, would have been really helpful. Because I think you do have highly trained artists involved in this, but that wasn't showcased enough. That wasn't emphasized enough, who these teachers are that are part of this. That would be my additional comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? In that case, I will ask you to finalize your scores and update any online comments, and indicate you're done with a thumbs up. Okay, very good. That is our final application to review, and this concludes the Region 6 Regional Initiative Grant Arts Project Support Panel. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the approval of the funding recommendations by the Indiana Arts Commissioners at their June meeting. If you have any questions, please contact Sherry Wright. Thank you very much.